Welcome back. My name is Levi from the Isle Revelations. Some of you may know me as Paper Plane on Discord. And today we got a lot we're going to go through. This might be a little bit longer video than usual because there's actually a lot to discuss here. So the first thing we're going to start working on is I'm going to show you a couple little things that came out in Oceanology 5.2, which I thought was amazing and definitely helps me with my game and some of the implementation that I need. So I just realized that this was in there after doing the RVT video. So if we go out here to like the beach and we select our ocean, we can go into the RVT settings here and we have this new one here called depth for still shore. And with that, we can actually adjust the shore as far as where the waves are going to start, which is really neat. So if we actually pump this up a little bit, you'll see that it starts flattening out here. And if we go all the way up, it's going to flatten out everything. And we don't really want that. But if we bring it back down, we can start just getting a little bit up here in this shore area where it's a bit flatter, a little bit calmer. But out here, you can see that it's going to get a little bit bigger waves. And this is not the greatest example just because those waves really aren't that big out there. But if we go and we match this with our preset and we go with something a little larger, let's see, like a fresh gale, you can see that we have a little bit less wave here and we can actually accentuate that a little more. Not that one, with this one here. We can actually bring it up a little bit more and get a little flatter in this area. And out here, you can see where the waves start getting bigger. So if we go out here, right where we get to our depth that we maxed out at, the waves will get larger, which is pretty awesome. So if we go back in this little cove too, you'll notice that we get a little bit flatter water. So that really changes things for me, and I thought that was pretty cool, and I wanted to show you guys that. So for right now, let's go ahead. I'm going to just put this water back to the way it was. I usually use the strong breeze for here. And I'm going to bring this back down a little bit. I usually find around 17, 15, 17 is about right. It just kind of makes it a little bit less right. Just right here on the edge is all I care about. That's almost perfect. Another thing we want to check out really quickly. So if we go underneath our landscape, you can see we have all this foam under here, and this is the RVT area. So this is the RVT mask. From the mask inwards, we can actually get rid of that. So if we had like, say our beach comes up a little bit and then drops back down where it hits the water a little, instead of getting in the water again, or the waves kind of working weird on like a flatter spot, we can actually add in the mask here. So if we go back in and we have this mask setting here, and we put these to 0, you'll see that now we have no water underneath. And we can control that with the mask here, the depth for mask. So if we bring that up, you'll see the mask start coming back in and going back out. And 128 is perfect. We're not really going to mess with that too much. You can also do the same thing with boats and rocks and all that kind of stuff. I haven't quite got through that yet because I've been working on this so much lately. I haven't gotten all the way through all that to see how that functions yet, but I will here shortly, and then I'll put up a video on masking out, like, say, rocks or, say, a boat or something like that so you don't get water inside. But for right now, I haven't quite got onto that one. So this will start everything off for us. Let's go ahead and get into what we're really going to be working on today. And today, the big thing is going to be doing the foliage and getting it so that we can run a little bit better on our frame rate. Because right now, currently, let's hit our beach here. Go ahead and drop in our frames. So we're doing 60, 65, 70 FPS here. Mid-low 60s in this particular area. And we can definitely get a little bit better on that because we have so many trees here. It's pretty wild how many we have up. Now, whenever we play, when we actually, we're going to go ahead and simulate in a minute, you'll notice that a lot of these trees are going to go away, and we'll go through that at that time. But for right now, we want to discover and kind of figure out why we're getting the hit that we are on the frame rates here. And one big one is that we have all these trees, and all these trees are moving. Okay? And if you look underneath, you can see their shadows. And you can see that the shadows are also moving. So the shadow is constantly updating for thousands of trees. And all of the little plants and everything. So we want to actually go ahead and kind of mitigate that a bit so that it's not as heavy of a draw as this is. So let's go ahead and discover exactly how we can do that. So the first thing we're going to do is we're going to start talking about the grid a little bit. So this is on a world, this is World Partition. So if we go in our World Partition here, you can see we have our World Partition Grid. Just going to go ahead and I'm going to unload everything that I can. Looks like I already have. Let me get rid of that one. Grab this one. All right, we have everything loaded. All right, perfect. So I have everything unloaded. What we're going to do is we're going to go ahead and grab everything and just load everything so that it's in. So now what we're going to do is we're going to go into the world settings. And if we go right here where it says runtime settings, we can open that up. And then we have grids. So if we open up our grids, we can see that we have our grid name, main grid, and these are the grid sizes. And we can change the colors, the origin point for the grid, and everything. What we're going to do right now is if I jump in to Alt-S, which is simulate for me, you can see that we don't have any trees. And if we go in, we'll start getting trees popping in and out. So that's the world grid working. Now currently this world grid is actually fairly small and it's not using this one. Okay, so if we go into, now you can see all the trees in. So if we actually go into our foliage, let's go ahead and close this one down. We go into our foliage. So I have all the foliage instances here. And we look at our foliage instance in the details, you'll notice that we have a runtime grid of none. So it's actually using just a default grid, which is the same size as the main grid that we're using right now. But it's not actually set to any specific grid. And with a instance foliage actor set like this, you can't unspatially load it. So it has to be running on some sort of grid. So we're going to go ahead and grab all of these, right? And we're going to, actually we're going to go ahead and create the grid first. So I don't have a grid here yet. So we have this grid here. This one's our main grid. We're not going to use that one. We're going to go ahead and we're going to add a new grid and we're going to call this one Foliage Grid. And you can actually add these instead of Foliage Grid. You can have like a short, medium, far, or, you know, something like that as well, and just do it that way. But right now we can actually go ahead to see on your preview grids. We can click on it and we have two grids here right now. So we're going to take this foliage grid, this one, and we're going to make this one a different color. So this is just our main grid. Yeah, I made a mistake here. Let me put this one back to main grid. And this is going to be our foliage grid. We're going to close down the main grid. This will be our foliage. And we'll call that foliage grid. And we can adjust our cell sizes and we can adjust our loading range. So right now you can see this is the size that'll get loaded in. And the edge right out of the circle is your loading range where it'll start loading in the next ones. And we can increase these cell sizes. So we can go up to like say a 3200. Oops, 32,000, my bad. And you can see now we got much larger squares. And I actually want to go fairly large for the foliage. So if we add this one into the foliage right now, so if we go and we get all of our foliage instances, and this is the foliage grid, we'll just copy it. And we'll go to details and we'll go ahead and paste it in for all of these. And it's going to take a second to load. Perfect. Now we have a very similar setup what we had a moment ago. So if I Alt-S, we can see where that grid is starting to put the trees back in and taking them out. Perfect. So we want to make that actually bigger, because the way I want to control the trees, I don't want it to run on a small grid of this size. I actually want it to work on the culling more than this, so that we have some distant trees. So I'm actually going to go ahead and increase this size here, this 25,600, and we're going to up that to 125,000. Should work. And right now we just have it so that it's just about the size of the island. That's perfect. So over all the way over here, we'll see that the ones in the background of the back edge of the island will start loading out. Okay. So now when we're in the middle of the island, all of the island foliage will be spawned, and we'll just control it with the culling. Perfect. That's exactly what we want. And we have it already set to our foliage grid. So let's go ahead and close those out. And now we can go back to our world settings, and we'll just go ahead and turn off the preview grid since we have that done. Now the interesting thing is you can have quite a few of these grids. Like I said, you can have one for close items or very small items. You can have one for medium items or medium distance, and you can have one for big items with a farther distance. And you can have them set up just for those, depending on size or anything that you want like that. So for right now, we're going to go ahead and start working on the plants. And the way that I like to do the plants is I like to work from the smallest plant up to the biggest plant. And the reason is just because I want to, we're gonna work with the way that the plants are moving right now. So if we go to any plant, you can see that it's moving, which is updating the shadows, and that is on the world position offset. And we have a nifty little tool. So if we actually go into our small plants and we open any of these up, and this is just the foliage that we were using earlier to get all of our clumping, adding it to whatever areas we wanted to. And we also have our cull distance here, which we're going to play here in a few minutes. And we also have our, where is it? I always lose this one. Right here. We have the world position offset disabled distance. So we have the one in front of us right now. So if I were to, no, this is not the one that's in front of us right now. That one specifically, which is this one here. And we're going to add this to 300. So we have 300 centimeters away. It's going to stop doing world position offset. So right now they're moving. And when we go 300, you see it move there. Right now it's moving. Now it's not. So that's where it stops. And it does that little jitter because it's going back to the original position that the world offset is not controlling. So we're going to go ahead and do the same thing on all of the little foliage. And we're going to get a little bit different distances depending on the item. So all of our smaller stuff, which is going to be this one, this one, this one, we'll do these. These ones will change to a little bit bigger. We can edit all these at the same time. We can actually go here and we can just edit them like that. Or we can grab all of them and we can go into the asset actions, edit selection and property matrix. And with this, we can edit all of these at the same time by depending which ones that we choose. And in this instance, we're just going to go ahead and choose them all. Let's grab this one and this one. And we're going to go into our instance settings just like we would in the other one, if we were doing them one by one. And we'll go into our multiple values here because I have a few of them set, but the rest of them are not. And we're going to do, say, we'll do 2800, like so. Perfect. And another one we're going to do is we're going to change our shadow cache validation behavior. And this will help with the shadowing as well, although we'll do that at the end for everything. So now we're going to go for our little bit bigger trees or bushes. which will be these. We'll go ahead and do the same thing. And we'll go into our asset actions and edit selection and property matrix. Go ahead and select all these. Go back into your world position offset disable distance, and we'll do these ones a little bit further. So these ones will be about, say, 4,600, like so. And we'll save that. And now we can actually see them as they change when we get to a certain distance, just like we could earlier. So at the distance we want them, and then they will stop moving. Right there, that one stopped moving. That one just stopped moving. And if we go back in, you'll see it pop in. Now it's moving again. And that's really not even that noticeable. I mean, it's kind of looks like it's just moving as it normally would. But once we get those to stop like that, then they won't cast that shadow anymore. Or they won't. The shadow won't be moving, so it won't be constantly changing and using the shadow. So we did all of those so far. And now we can start moving up and doing our larger plants. So if we go into our mediums, we have a bunch of banana trees and all that kind of stuff here. We're going to go ahead and do these, do the same thing, asset actions, edit selection property matrix. We're going to select all of these, and we're going to do the same thing on these. We're going to change these ones to 5,800, just like so. And we'll test it real quick and just see how much pop-in they do. Some of them are worse than others. So you would have to, see those right there. That's really not all that bad though. So we can offset those a little bit by grabbing the other palm tree, or the other banana tree. And we'll change this one to, say, 5,200, so that they don't just all go at the same time. And it'll give a little bit more of an offset so that only some of them are and some of them aren't. Now you can see that it's not quite as drastic. Very cool. And we're going to do the same thing with the large trees. We're going to grab all of the large trees, and we're going to go ahead and actions, property matrix, grab them all. And we're going to set these ones to, say, probably about 1350, 1450, something like that. We'll do 14. So this will be 14,500, like so. And then we can see those bouncing in, but they're much farther away, so they're actually going to be a bit tougher to see them pop in and out, which is exactly what we want. And I honestly can't even see them changing at all, which is really good. But when we do get closer, you will see that the branches are moving and the leaves are moving as well. Now, the palm trees are a little more drastic. So if you go to the palm trees, and the reason that is because, you can see them pop right there. And the reason that is because palm trees are just like really curved and kind of slender. So every time it goes back to its original position instead of the offset that it has, it's just a little more noticeable than any of the bigger, like bushy trees. They don't really seem to pop quite as much. So generally I would actually take the palm trees and make them a much farther distance just so they don't pop so much, but this is fine for now. And that will get us set for that. And we've already gained like 3 or 4 FPS from what we had earlier, and we're at 13 milliseconds. That's the really important one. So now we can go back in and do probably the most important thing, and that's start culling these out, because right now we have all these little plants and all these rendering all the time everywhere. So every place you can see them there. Those are little plants right there. From this distance, we don't need those. Those are just way too far away to need them. So what we're going to do is we're going to actually go here, and we're going to grab our littler plants, and we're going to go back to the same thing we did. We're going to go with small plants. We're going to start from the smallest up, and this particular one right here, this one right here, this one here. These ones are going to be our base for starting. But the thing is, I don't want them all at the same cull distance. I want them to actually stagger a little bit. So we're going to do our smallest one first. And we can go into our cull distance here. And these are nanite. I turn them into nanite. So when they cull in or out, they're going to just pop in or out. Unfortunately, nanite doesn't fade in or out like a static mesh. So if you just have a standard static mesh and you put that in and you set your minimum to say 3,000 and you set your maximum to 5,000, whenever you get 3,000 away, it's going to start to do its fade out until it reaches the maximum, which is 5,000, which is when it's gone. Unfortunately, nanite doesn't do that, so I'm not going to set a medium to anything or minimum. I'm just going to go ahead and set the maximum on these. And these aren't going to actually be very far. They're probably going to be about maybe 2,400. Actually, this one will probably be about 3,200 because these are more in the grassland areas. And then we'll grab our next one over, which we have here, which is just a little bit bigger. So this one will be like, say, 4,200. And we'll grab our next one over, which we're going to be using was this one, which we have a lot of them here in this area. And this one also will probably be about 4,400, like so. And then we're going to go to our next one here. And we'll do this one about 45, just like so. And then you have the bigger ones, which will get a little bit further the further out you go. So this one right here will probably be about 52. And then we'll go to the slightly larger one. This one right here will probably be about the same, maybe 55 or so. And then we go to slightly bigger. This one will actually be a little farther. 62 is fine. And then we have, I think I didn't do this one. This one actually isn't going to be that far. Say 55. And this one also around 56, 55, 56 will be fine. And then we'll do this one here, which this one technically really, it looks bigger than what it is. It's actually not that big. It's tall, but it's not very wide and it's kind of see-through. So it's not a huge one. We'll just do this one at 63 for good measure. And then we'll go ahead and see how much pop in and out we get. So we see them. We have plenty of bushes and stuff here. And if we start backing up, we're going to start losing them. And you're going to see that the small ones are going to go first. And then the larger ones will start going afterwards. But I mean, as far away as we are, it's kind of hard to see that anyway. I mean, you can make it a lot further depending on what you want to do. And there are a few other tricks you can do just to get those assets to be a little bit less expensive. Especially on things like these here. So I mean, right here, you can see it. We do have all the shadowing on these, which we don't really need on some of these assets like this. I'm going to leave this just because it looks cool, but we don't really need that much. But right now, we have that cull distance in fine. And they're popping. I could use that bigger bushes being a little further away, but I'm not going to worry about it too much. That's really up to you and how you want to do it. I'm just kind of giving the example at this point. So now we got to actually start working on our medium trees. So we go back in our foliage, we go into our mediums. Let's go ahead back to where we might have some of those. Right in here, we got all of our banana trees and stuff. We'll start with our banana trees first. So all of these bigger ones here, I'm going to go ahead and set these to the same just to get this done a little faster because this is going to run pretty long. I'm going to grab all these, and these are going to probably be around. So we're going to do it through the property matrix. Let me close. You know what? Let me close everything. Close everything. Let's go back into these. We're going to go in asset actions and property matrix again. We're going to grab all of them. And in property matrix, they kind of hide the cull. It's actually like this, and you're looking, you don't see it. You got to hit the little arrow. And we're going to put these ones to probably around 14,000. Whoops, that's way too much. 14,500. Something about like that. These are a little bit bigger. These ones right here, we're going to go a little bit smaller. I'm going to go ahead and yeah, we're going to do these separated. So this one is going to be, this is the bigger of the two. So this will be 13,005. And then we'll go for the smaller one here. This one will be, say, 12,800. Something about like that. So those are pretty far off in the distance. And if we start backing up, you will notice that they will pop in and out a little bit, but they're so far back there that they're kind of not that visible. There, pop in. See? You can see it if you really look, but when you're running through, it really doesn't show up that much, believe it or not. Now we got to start doing the bigger trees. So the big trees is important to do because, I mean, obviously you want your trees to look like this, all lush and giant. And there are some trees that you can do that with, but these are actually quite high poly and very detailed. So there's a lot of information and pixels there, or polys there to deal with. So we are going to have to cull some of them out. And the way we're going to do that, we're going to go in our large trees, and we have our largest trees. These ones, we're gonna go ahead and open both of those up together. And we're going to do those in the property matrix right here. And we're going to give them a pretty good distance. So these ones are going to be 180,000. So we're going to see these pretty far away before they start culling. And then we're going to start messing with all these down here. One of them that we don't want to go quickly is the palm trees. And the reason is because when we're sailing in, the palm trees obscure a lot of what's on the beach. So even if you had rocks and stuff that pop in or out behind the palm trees, if the palm trees are there and it's just a thin line of them, they actually keep it from seeing some of the things popping in and out in the back. So we're going to go ahead and do these big ones. We have those at 180,000, and then we'll do our palm trees, and we're going to do the same thing with those. Go back in Asset Actions, Property Matrix, and we're going to cull these ones at 220 because I do want these to be visible from a long distance, and I didn't select them. So we have to go back in, copy it, paste it. There we go. Just like that, and they should pop out at 220. There they go. And the bigger trees will leave at 180. So now we're going to start back at the ground and work from the smallest trees back up to the tallest trees. So the smallest trees we have here will be these three. We can go ahead and do one of these at a time. So this one will probably be around, say, 84,000. Probably be okay. And then we'll grab our next one here. And we'll just spitball these. 78,000 will probably be okay. And we'll go into our next one here. This one's a little bit shorter, so I'm going to do this one right around 68,000. Just like so. And then we have these taller trees. So we have this one, which is a shorter tree, and these are in the forest areas. These ones you're going to see more because the canopy's higher, and these will be hidden more underneath these. So this one we can get the cull distance fairly low. Probably around 70,000 or so. And then we have the two taller ones. These are the big canopy trees. We're going to make these a little bit farther. So this one's going to be 110,000. One more zero. And the other one we're going to do at 125. That way we can get them popping in when they need to, and they won't all pop in and out at the same time, so you'll see them kind of fade out like that. That's perfectly fine, because down here, you're not going to see that. So when you're down here on the ground and you're looking up, there's a lot of things obscuring your view, so you're not really going to see those things far away. And they are far enough away that you have to really be a long distance away before you lose them. And you see we have two big trees up there, but there's actually more trees inside, and they're still there. And then we have all these over here that pop in a little bit. So you do get that. But it is what it is. You kind of have to work with what you can. And we're almost hitting 80 at 12 milliseconds. So the milliseconds is really the big factor. So let's go ahead, and now we have all of our culling in. There's a few other little tricks we can do. So if we go into our trees, all these trees I have made into nanite. So we have to go into the actual static mesh itself, which are these ones. And if we open one of these up, we can look at the nanite setup here, and we can look, if we back out a little, this is streaming 1.12 megabytes, a total of 1.16 megabytes. And our nanite triangles is 29,839. We can actually clean that up a little bit, and without losing too much detail either. So we have the detail that we have up here in the top. We can actually just bring down our triangle percentage a bit, because the original on these, with the, well, not nanite, they're probably like 18,000 polys or so. So we know we have some room we can wiggle. So we're actually going to bring these down, and we're going to go to about 0.55, which this will probably be a little bit too much, but I'm going to try and iterate what can happen. Oh, that's, I meant 55. That's a little too much. So if we go to 55, you'll see that it looks pretty much identical. But at 55, we will have a few things that just don't quite fit together right. And for the most part, this is perfectly fine. You would never notice it. But when the more intricate your item is, or the more branches or things that it has coming out, the less you go down on your percentage here, the more of that detail you're going to lose. So this actually works just fine. I do have some trees that are more detailed that at 55 will actually lose, and you'll start getting banding in your textures and everything. So this one we're going to go ahead and leave alone. But the difference between is that we brought this down on our streaming to 0.75 megabytes instead of 1.2. So we did gain there. And we're at 16,000 nanite triangles. So we can do the same thing with all these trees. So what we're going to do is I'm going to separate them out, because I know that the bigger trees can give me a little bit more leeway. Where is the other big tree? There it is. All right, so we got this one here, and this one I already have set at 55. I mean, unless this is the one we already did, and then that's what it was. Okay, nope. So we have them both these are set at 55, and this one is at 0.6. So all of these are over 1 megabyte, but when you bring it down a little bit, you get a little bit less on your streaming. And then we can go ahead and grab all of these other trees. We'll just grab all the assets that we have here to here. These ones as well. These ones right here as well. And we're going to open them again in Asset Actions, Property Matrix. And we're going to grab all of these, and we'll go to our nanite settings. And this works a little bit different. So one here is 100%. Once it loads in. So 1 is 100%. It won't show 100 like it did on the other one. It'll say 1. And we want to bring it down to 0.65. And I'm doing 6.5 because I know there's a couple trees here that are a little bit more intricate. And if I go to 55, I lose a bit of detail in the branches. And I don't want to do that. So let's go ahead and let all those load. Perfect. All right. Let's go ahead and go back there. And let's go ahead and save that before we get a crash and lose everything we did. Perfect. So what are we getting in there now? Oh, get off that. So getting right at that top point. 75 there. So if I move my mouse around it, you'll see that it kills it a bit. You got to keep your mouse still. The really important one though is this bottom number, 12, running right at 12 milliseconds. I mean, that's really good. 12 milliseconds at this is not quite 4K, but this is 3440 by 1440, so it's pretty good size monitor for running all this. So now that we have all that set in, and we have our culling set the way that we want it for our bushes and stuff here. So those are culling out just the way we want. Perfect. And we can run around here We have quite a few more things we can do there as well. So we have all these other rocks here. And if we go back, you can actually see them. All these rocks, all these little small rocks, all these big rocks. All of this can be edited to cull in, cull out. We had rocks over here. I didn't even realize that those ones went in there. Okay. So we can set all of those as well to cull in, cull out. So we have our smaller rocks. Let's go into foliage. Let's go into small rocks. Nope, it was large rocks. There we go. That's not the right one. No. We need to go into foliage and rocks and stumps. And we have this one right here. We'll go ahead and cull this one out at, say, 45,000. Works for me. And we have this bigger one. We'll cull this one out even farther. Say 85,000. Something about like that. Works well. All right. So now we should have some of those. Now I know that these ones, whoops, these ones right here also need to cull. And those were in, I think those were still in the mesh. Large rocks? No. I made them in, I must have done it still in the mesh folder. Our mesh, cliffs, ground rocks. Here they are. Okay, so we can go ahead and grab these. And we're going to cull these at the same time because they're actually clumped together on top of each other. So we want them to cull out somewhat at the same distance. This one's will be, this one also will be 85,000. Just like so. And we're going to set this one to rigid, which is another thing that we're going to do here in a moment. So we can set the shadow cache and validation behavior. I'm actually not using the caches right now, so this doesn't really affect us much. But if you are still using Lumen and you're still using the virtual texture, virtual shadow maps, then that will help you out a little bit there. But at my frame rate with the amount of trees we have, 71, 72 frames per second, with that is, yeah, that's, I wouldn't be getting it. I'd probably be getting about 25. Big difference. Let's see. Let's go ahead and let's see if those are culling at 80,000. There they go. Perfect. We can do the same thing with all these larger rocks. So you can stagger these two. I'm not going to, just because that's going to take quite a bit of time. Why are we here? Go to our mesh. Let's go ahead and grab all these. We'll go to asset actions, property matrix. And we can set the triangle percentage here as well. On some of these, they are not. I'm going to go ahead and set them all to, whoops, see, I made a mistake there. So keep percent triangles 65. That's what I normally would do if I did them individually in their own parameter fields. But here, 1 is 100. So this would be 0.65. There we go. And it builds those. That will work perfectly. And we have everything set up there. That should work just fine. All right. So now what we can do is all of these big rocks, every one of these cliff rocks, except for these two and these two out here, we can add these ones now to our grid. So if we go into our world settings, we can add us a new grid. And we'll call this rocks grid. And we're going to copy that. And then we're going to go into our rocks. So I have them set as cliffs. there are a lot of them. We're going to grab all of these. So this is definitely going to take a minute. And we're going to go into our streaming and we're going to add these to that grid. Control V to paste it. And then hit the is spatially loaded. Perfect. So now we can go back in and let's check our grid size. Let's go ahead and do that. Go back in our world settings. So we have our grid size. Our rock grid size is fairly small. We'll make this a very obvious color, like a really deep red, like so. We'll go ahead and turn this on. Now it's a little bit tough to see because the grids are underneath each other and they are transparent, so the colors kind of blend together. You can set the priorities of these so that this one's a little bit higher value to make sure that this one loads in before any of the other ones, which we are going to do since the rocks are really important. We'll go ahead and set that in. If we increase this size by a lot, then you're going to see it go red. And you see where it's blending with the others. And then you get your red. So we're going to keep our cell size fairly small. And you know what we're going to do? We're not going to do that. We're actually going to bring our cell size up pretty good. And yeah, that's probably, no, you know what? We're going to leave it smaller. And then we'll just bring this size up a bit. Why did that go to 0? That was 25,000. Control C. Control V it there. And we're going to, and this one is wrong too. If you reset them, they go to the odd number. So we're going to go ahead and bring this one up a little bit bigger, about like so. Because we don't really want these to, we're going to see a lot of these since they're on the mountains and stuff, so we don't want them to spawn away too quickly. About like that. That should probably work for us really well. Let's see, so if we're standing here, yeah, everything is going to be visible until we get to right there. That's when it'll pop out. And that's not horrible. It's not, let's go to like, say 82,000. See if we just get that edge. Yeah. So if we do stand up here, we are going to lose a little bit of the mountain over there, but it's okay. That'll work for us for now. Let's just go ahead and close this down and save it. Actually, got to go back to there and just turn off the debugger here. And now if we Alt S, you can see where we start losing those rocks as well. Just like so. Yeah, let's go on and head back down here to our beach area. Whoops. There we go. So 74, 75 here. So we'll probably get a little higher here. Oh, I'm selecting something. So if you're actually selecting something, you will see your frame rate go down. So always escape, see where you're at. I'm at 84. That's way better than where we started. I mean, we're at 84 at 12, 13 milliseconds. Let it settle. Yeah, 13 right there. Depends on what we're looking at because we do have a lot more foliage back here in this area. So we are going to see a little bit more of a drop there. But yeah, I mean, that actually works out. So the problem that we have right now is that all of the rocks, so if we go out far enough, all of our rocks are going to disappear, including, oh, you know what? I must have put these in a different folder. Let me check. No, so they will. It's just why? Oh yeah, because we're not, sometimes I realize how smart I am. Anyway, let me, go ahead and, yeah, now they'll go away and we'll see them drop out right there. So I actually don't want these ones to go anywhere. So we're going to take those. We're going to hit our streaming. Let's escape out. We're going to grab these 3 and we're going to go into streaming. And why am I still, there we go. Go into streaming here and we're going to I'm actually going to take these ones off of is spatially loaded so that they never unload. That's what that one does. So if you grab anything that you want, you can't do that with the foliage instance. What do you call them? Like the proxies for the foliage. So if we go to the foliage here and we grab these instances, you'll notice that is spatially loaded is grayed out. You have to have a runtime grid on the foliage actors. But everything else you can grab and you can just uncheck is spatially loaded and that will stay and it will never unload. Probably not the best practice to do. You would probably, if this was a much larger world and you were able to go much farther away, you would still want this one to unload as well, just at a much further distance. And that's where your grids come in. So you have your really far grid for when you're, like, say, on another island way back there. Then this will unload because you don't need it here. You want to unload this entire map. So that works perfect. And I mean, we could go one step further and go ahead and add in. We'll actually just use the main grid. So if we go back into our world settings and we go back into our runtime settings and we have our main grid that we started with, we can go ahead and set our landscape to it. So if we go back here, and this one is white, we'll make this one like a purple color, like really bright purple, like so. So that should be this one here in the middle. That's our main grid. And we bring this loading range or cell size up. We're going to pull the cell size up because the cells for the proxies are pretty good size anyway. And we're going to extend this out even further, like say about this much. So what's that? Yeah, say 110,000, like that. And set that one to the landscape grid. We can actually cull out some of the landscape, so the landscape that we're not viewing. Now the thing is that if you're in the middle here, anywhere in the middle, even over here, you want to make sure that you're seeing this back here, because if you're not, then you are going to lose that. So if I go ahead and show it right now, we're set here. Oops, I didn't set the grids. That's why. Let me go to set those real quick. This is landscape grid. Let me go ahead and Control C that. And then we'll go up to cliffs, close, close, go to our landscape, and we're going to go to details. We have to grab all the proxies here. And we're going to set it to, you know what? I think that you can actually set all of them with just the landscape. Streaming. Runtime grid here and Control V it. I think that does all of them. So now if we select one, I guess it doesn't. Let's just do them all. Grab here, go here, Control V, and it's going to take a minute. There we go. So now we have all those. So if we're in this area, say we're climbing up on this mountain and we look across, currently we're going to be missing a mountain. Did I not set them to spatially loading? Oh, are you kidding me? Why? Ah, I didn't. There it is. All right. All right, let's try this one more time. So if we're looking across and we go ahead and you'll see that we're going to lose our... Oh, it's that far. Okay, I went a little further. So I didn't do it quite the way I wanted. Let's go ahead and bring that cell size back down to its normal, 25,600. And we'll bring this back down to about here. This is landscape. Yes, this is going to be priority 2. I believe up is the higher priority. No, it might be the other way around. Let me go ahead back to 0. I think that this is also 0 and then 1, 2, 3, 4 is. So if we go down here, oh, and I did this while I'm running 25,000, 77,000. Perfect. Priority of 0. Save it. Play it here. So you can get to a point where you will lose parts of your, like that. Where you will lose parts of your map. So, generally, for a world of this size, with RVTs and everything on it, you can also throw in the nanite, which I don't have right now. It's actually just a regular mesh. I would actually not stream this one for this size map. But that's just me. Everyone has their own. Am I still running? There we go. All right, so I'm gonna just go ahead and take these back off because I don't particularly care to stream those on this map size. Details, spatially loaded off. Perfect. Now we won't lose it at all. Go back into our world settings. Turn off this. And there we go. So we're losing everything there. And if we were playing, you would see the rocks. We would lose those as well. We could actually lose those a little bit further because you... well, nah, this is okay. The way it is right now. It's fine. So yeah, there's a lot of ways, a lot of things you can do to get this all set up. We can also go ahead and build out the landscape itself. So I don't have the landscape set currently as landscape, as a nanite, just because there's a little issue with nanite that, let me go ahead and build it real quick and let me see if it shows up. All right, so here we go. Currently, this is built nanite. So if we go into our lit, go back into our nanite visualization and go to triangles, everything should be triangulated, and it is. Very cool. It definitely looks neat, but the issue that I find with it is, let me go back to lit, get rid of that. Every once in a while you get a seam, and you also get this. That's just because I have some kind of cheats going on with my shading, just to kind of bring it down a little bit. Something I didn't go into, that's in the INI file, a few settings I did there. So right, I think I just saw it. When you put in your nanite, and unfortunately the INI shading thing that I did doesn't work on the nanite landscape. Kind of shows up a little weird. Where are they? They don't really seem to be doing so bad today. Yeah, so you can actually see it right there. There's a seam, and that seam is the landscape itself, the proxy itself. And from a distance, you can really see those show up. There's one right there, that line. So we are kind of losing it when we go into it a little bit, but sometimes you can actually see where the materials butt together, and it just can be a little bit disturbing. So that's one of the reasons that I'm not running it right now, just because that does become a bit of an issue. So I am going to go ahead and get rid of that. Go ahead and close these down. And we will, no, we got to go to landscape, and we'll just go ahead and disable and we're going to go ahead and just disable it so that we don't get those weird issues with the distance mesh, the distance shadows. So that is actually working out for us pretty good. We have everything going, and we have the palm trees really going good there. Everything popping in when it needs to. Start coming in. Yeah, that's not bad at all. I like that quite a bit. And we got down to a fairly respectable frames per second. So, yeah. If I hit this down in 1080p, and I'm not recording anything. So right now I'm recording audio on Pro Tools, and I'm recording the video. We would probably be hitting Right now it's 3440 by 1440. We would probably be hitting just over 100 frames per second, but unfortunately, Pro Tools is just a major CPU hog. And the recording is hitting the graphics card pretty hard, so it's kind of a double whammy. I wish I could show you without this on, but maybe I'll take a screenshot here in a few minutes and I'll just post that up real quick so you can see the actual numbers instead of what you're seeing there. Because unfortunately, we have a lot of stuff that's kind of going against this. But anyway, that will definitely get this one set up. And that'll get us started on this. I'm going to go through and add a few more things as far as getting the culling and everything set up and getting the little bit more time I'm going to spend on it to get it even running a little bit better and run through some of the tools and everything, which we didn't do, which we should do, and I completely forgot. So we can actually pull up our tool menu, and we have some really important tools that we can look at to help us out with this. I was just going because I already know what I need to do on this map. But if you don't know what's giving you a problem, and you want to find out, you can actually go to state, and you can state your GPU, and it'll give you a really good indication in your total milliseconds, min-max, average, where you're hitting the most. And right now, obviously, we're going to be hitting the shadow depths. Shadow is the thing that can be a major killer. And a lot of reasons why a lot of people bake out shadow maps and everything and put shadow maps in there. Right now, this entire scene is dynamic shadows, which is the most expensive of the shadows. And what we were trying to do is bring down a lot of that shadow buffer from all those trees moving all over the place. That's why we did the offset, the world position offset distance, so that they're not moving, so that that shadow's not constantly being calculated. So right now, I mean, we could actually probably bring that down a lot more than what we have, as far as grabbing the trees themselves and bringing that to a much lower value so that you have to be closer to them before they start moving, and we'll actually see this number go down here even more. So another thing that we can check to see what's going on is if you go into your commands, we can also profile the GPU. And this is a really big one. So now we can see exactly what items is costing us per frame the most. Okay. And if we go into each one, we can see where they are. Nanite visualization, 0.23 milliseconds per frame. We got this one here, base pass 1.12. This one here is post-processing 2.56, and that's, I'm using ultra dynamic sky, so there's quite a bit of post-processing there. Plus we have the underwater, there's quite a bit of post-processing there as well. And then the big one here is the nanite, and it's always the nanite shadow depth. So we got 11 milliseconds is just in the shadow depth itself. 1097, and we go in here, go into nanite shadows, and then we can go into this one, and then we'll go into the main pass, and HW rasterize, SW rasterize. So these are the two that are giving us the most trouble. And this is just the shadow with dynamic shadows. So this is something that you want to try to bring down as far as you can to get the most performance that you can. So those two are huge tools that you will need to use to kind of work on this stuff. So this one here is the profile GPU visualizer. And this one here is the state GPU. And this will give you like a quick overview of what you need to look at. And this one will go into great detail on what you need to look at. This one only captures one frame. So wherever you are, if you change to over here and you want to see something else, you're going to have to rerun it to get a different picture. And it will only take one frame out of that. So that definitely will get you there. Let's go ahead and state GPU, get that turned off. So perfect. So that will probably get us done for today. Like I said, I'm going to go through and I'm going to actually add a little bit more to this, and I'll explain some of the things I'm doing whenever I come back again. It's just a lot of it is kind of tedious, a lot of back and forth, messing with the parameters as far as the shadow and the world position offset and stuff. So yeah, I'll probably spend several hours on it and see where I can get. Then we'll go back and I'll do like an overview. But that being said, the Oceanology giveaway is already done last Sunday, and this Sunday we're going to go ahead and announce the people who are going to receive those copies. I'm super excited. I bet some of you are more excited than I am, but probably not. So yeah, I'll see you guys on Sunday, and I'll send you a Discord and a YouTube message before to let you know when that's coming out. And it will probably be a watch party, so it'll be on, so all you guys can get on and just watch at the same time, say what's up, whatever that works out. That'll be awesome. So anyway, I'm going to leave it here for this one, and I'll see you guys on the next one.